Frank Frost here again. I want to talk to you today about the greater good. Now, when I was in my bail hearing, when they first falsely arrested me, Jeffrey McDonald said to Judge Gray, he wanted all these conditions and everything else for the greater good. It didn't dawn on me at the time what he meant by the greater good, as to why it would be for the greater good that I'd be kept from my children, my wife, and denied my right to work by restricting my movements. The denial of these rights are constitutional only if the denials do not breach what is referred to as fundamental justice. Now, these rights are namely the right to life, liberty, and security of the person. Now, I'm reading from Section 7 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms here in this country, or so they say. All these rights can be compromised in the cases where the infringing law is in accordance with the principle of fundamental justice. That is, there are core values within the justice system that must prevail over these rights for the greater good of society. Now let's explore that. Is it in the greater good of our society that hundreds of children in Saskatchewan died in the care of the Ministry of Children and Families? 66 children committed suicide in the care of those people in Saskatchewan. Couldn't stand the love and the care that they were getting any longer. Couldn't stand it. So they offed themselves. Okay. For the greater good. Right? Now, 484 children in Saskatchewan died in the care of that ministry over a 20-year period. Now, there were 38 homicides. Got to ask yourself a question. How is it that these people can come and take your children, have them commit suicide, murdered, whatever, right? And they don't have to answer to anybody, do they? No. For the greater good, right? Alberta, 592. 592 children. They don't list the suicides. But I'm pretty sure that those numbers would scare the shit out of you. Right? Now, they won't tell you in British Columbia how many children died here in their so-called care. Right? They won't tell you that. No, no, no. No, that's none of your business, you see. For the greater good, right? Right here in British Columbia, in Port Alberni. Now this is from the Clockwork Security, MCFD. This was faxed to me by Fred Porter. And you can Google all this, by the way. You can Google all what I just said. And do it. Do it. Don't just take my word for it. Okay? I could be a lying fuck just like them. Right? Where every time my lips are moving, I'm lying. Just don't take my word for it. Google it and find out. Find out for yourself. Says here, Regional District Security Resources, Port Alberni, Tofino, Ucluelet, Bamfield. Port Alberni, RCMP, and MCFD in breach of trust. No doubt for the greater good. Besides the challenges with the local economy, the public of Port Alberni is also enduring the abuse of power by local authorities. Port Alberni's civil rights liberties are under heavy fire by 3 government agencies. Port Alberni RCMP, Port Alberni MCFD, Port Alberni Law Courts. Now these are the fucking people that work for these people. And they're under fire by them? For the greater good, right? Port Alberni RCMP officer swears and yells as the team move in to overpower a lone man. MCFD social worker Jane Clark explains how MCFD are above the law. An interview with Port Alberni children and Minister of Children and Family Custody. The children speak their minds about how they feel they are being mistreated by the Port Alberni MCFD. Now, this is all, you can Google all this, it's on YouTube. And do that. This is www.youtube.com. Watch. !V. Call Fred. Fred Porter will give you the website to carry. Public complaints regarding clear breaches of trust are conveniently being dealt with by the breaching organizations itself. Instead of an independent review, the complaints seem to take a long time consuming root and end up unresolved on the public's end. For the greater good. This self-auditing process seems to be often applied to cases including false RCMP charges, like they did to me, and child apprehensions by the MCFD due to fictitious complaints, like they did to my little Tony and Cherise. For the greater good. Right? Port Alberni has the highest per capita child apprehension rates in Canada. MCFD fails to meet the mandate of family development in Port Alberni. That's number 1, they're saying. Increases child reapprehension rates. Keeps children in foster care for longer periods of time. Keeps MCFD busy wasting our tax dollar money on cynical, poorly educated social workers. But they enhance our community, right? For the greater good. Remember that. High workloads for social workers and foster parents resulting in inadequate supervision of children labeled as being in care. Increases abandonment periods for children in foster care. Decreases MCFD's ability to conduct proper investigations. Increases the length of time required to return children to parents. They've had my children now for over 2 fucking years. No reason to keep them from me. None whatsoever. No 2 children were ever loved as much as I love my little children. My little Tony and my little Cherise May. And I'll get to that in a few minutes too. Port Alberni RCMP disregards civil rights. Civilians are treated with aggression even when they're not resisting. Charges are laid without due investigation or evidence. And they do that all the time, right? For the greater good. This Vancouver Island region is a training area for new officers and has a high turnaround, allowing new officers to make mistakes and move on. Additional charges are often laid based on the conditions in place due to initial false charges. Even when false charges are dropped, the additional charges remain in place. They do that with the fucking conditions they put on you. Ask Robert White at RubiconCrossroads.wordpress.com. He'll explain it to you. Eh? How he beat the charges, the original charges, but he's still under conditions from those charges for the greater good. Right? RCMP officers are known to commonly lie to civilians as they have no liability, and some even lie to judges to justify their actions and protect their reputations. Just like pedophile Barry did, Pete Bernstein, and all the rest of the fucking cops involved with me. For the greater good. The local Port Alberni RCMP and MCFD not only seem to uphold lies to the north degree, but also receive extraordinary support by the local courts. Just like Gray, right? Just like Weatherly. Just like Keyes. Eh? Just like that fucking shithead Cowan. For the greater good. According to a highly qualified insider source, if an officer or social worker provides a statement to the court, this statement is upheld as the official truth. They're legislated for that. Legislated. Whatever they write is deemed as the truth. That's legislation, people. For the greater good. Remember the greater good now. Looking at it from a security perspective, no one can be safe from being wrongfully charged, tried and convicted in Port Alberni law courts. That's right across this fucking country they do this. Everywhere. Prince George does it every day. They did it to me, didn't they? Eh? But nobody says anything, see? Right? Nobody stands up in the courts and tells them, like I did. Eh? For the greater good. They shut you up. Or try to. The RCMP's charges and MCFD actions can often be based on misinformation that is later upheld as the official truth and threatened as such by a judge, and treated, as such by a judge. There seems to be little need for concrete evidence. None whatsoever, right? The court is your final chance for true justice. But the downfall is that RCMP officers and MCFD social workers are treated as superior, all-knowing, all-seeing, nearly holy beings. And that's how they're treated. They treat you like shit. Your word means nothing. It doesn't even matter if you prove what everything they said is a fucking lie. They'll ignore it. Just like Judge Gray did when I handed him my wife's video and statement of what she said. Look at her video. You know what they're saying now? She retracted her statement. Can you imagine? Look at her video. She broke all the rules. She went and did her video, wrote her statement, had it delivered to me. I submitted it to the court. Jeffrey McDonald, when I said that Jeffrey McDonald should be charged now, right? Because she made a claim and wrote a statement to that effect that he should be charged, and so should the rest that she mentioned. Jeffrey McDonald looked at Judge Gray and said, "You can't do that, sir." You know why? Because he has sovereign immunity. Just like me now, right? Sovereign immunity. And it's not in the interest of the greater good. Right? Let's not forget the greater good there. Okay. As we go through all of this. I spoke to you a little bit about Estabrook. This is a New Brunswick police officer in St. John, New Brunswick, who molested 260 children. 260. They said after decades of secrecy, private investigators and St. John, New Brunswick officials say that the lone police officer, remember that now, Sergeant Kenneth Estabrook, was behind a massive child abuse scandal that targeted vulnerable children for at least 25 years. Now remember, he said they was alone, right? Keep that in mind. One of the children that spoke up said he even had colleagues in the police force whenever he couldn't find his victims. And he couldn't get a hold of them. Then he had some policemen on the force look out for us, he said. I had the bumps and bruises. Let's put it that way, he said. He sent the other cops to go and get him for him. Keep that in mind now, before I finish. Some victims say they told police and social workers what Estabrook was doing, but they looked the other way. Looked the other way. Oh, for the greater good, I guess. Yeah. In 1999, some victims stepped forward, and Estabrook was charged with 6 counts of indecent assault, convicted of 4, and sentenced to 6 years in prison. During this trial, a former police detective, Herbert Robertson, testified that in 1975, 2 kids complained that they had been molested by Estabrook. Robertson said Estabrook confessed to these accusations, but instead of being charged, he was quietly moved to a city works job, the records show. Now, all the fucking social workers, all the cops, all the people on the municipal council knew about Estabrook and were likely participants. Why is it that of all the things that's in here that they talk about, nobody else is being charged for the greater good, right? Private investigator David Perry was called on to lead the search. I talked to David Perry. Ask him if I talked to him. Google him and ask him if I spoke to him about where his investigation was going. And was he going to be investigating the accusations of the other people involved? And he said, no. That's what he said. No. He's not doing that. And here's his number, by the way. 1-506-608-3447. That's his fucking cell number. Phone him and ask him. Phone him and ask him if he had spoke to me. Huh? He might lie to you, but I got phone records to prove that I did. For the greater good, right? RCMP officer in child abuse case remanded in custody until next week. To protect the identity of the alleged victims, the names of the couple were not released. Huh? For the greater good. Huh? Now, what the fuck would you know about the victims and their names? You wouldn't, would you? But the Freedom of Information Act protects all these cops, all these pedophile cops. Yeah. Yeah. They won't say how many children are involved, but they say the case involves more than one alleged victim. Eh? Corporal Shorey is the one that's investigating. She said she could not give details about why the man hasn't been on active duty, how long the man has worked for the RCMP, or in the capacity for several reasons, including wanting to protect the identity of the youth involved. Now this cop, Ottawa police said the officer was arrested Tuesday after an investigation at his residence in a wealthy Ottawa neighborhood. He is charged with 3 counts of aggravated assault, 3 counts of assault with a weapon, and 1 count each of aggravated sexual assault, failing to provide the necessities of life and forcible confinement. Get a load of this. Do you remember Ken Aziz, one of the pedophiles that molested my wife, Carrie? Get a load of this. Peter Aziz is the lawyer for the accused man. Eh? Coincidence? Maybe. You think he's going to get anything? Not fucking likely. For the greater good. Right? I doubt if there's another word that was said about it. And you know what? Again, they had 1 mention on the news about this. 1 day. 1 fucking day. That's what our media does, see? For the greater good, right? Estabrook, same thing. 1 day. 1 lousy fucking day. And they have made a brief mention of him and then went on with a story about how a bus driver was making sure the children were getting to where they were going in St. John, New Brunswick. Yeah. Now I am sure that they mentioned that because, well, we're greater good, right? Yeah. Yeah. My rights, I didn't have any in that court because of the greater good, as you see by the Charter of Rights. You want to laugh? Go and look at the Charter of Rights. There's a good laugh for you. Yeah. I'll show you what rights you have. You don't have fuck all rights. None. I'm going to read you something now that I don't think you even know. But you will know now. And you can check this under Section 7 of the rights and freedoms that you are supposed to have in this country. There has been calls for Section 7 to protect property. In 1981, the Progressive Conservative Party suggested that Section 7 be extended to protect the enjoyment of property. Some provincial governments, including that of Prince Edward Island as well as the NDP party, opposed the changes. The NDP thought if property rights were enshrined in the Charter, Other economic rights should be added. In September of '82, after the Charter had been enacted, the government of British Columbia approved of an unsuccessful amendment to Section 7 that would protect property rights. You own nothing. Nothing. You have the right to enjoy. That's all. All the property that you're paying for, that you think, and they tell you, oh, that's your land. No, it's not. It's that bitch in England owns that land. You have the right to enjoy it. Read it for yourself. It's in the Charter. Read the whole Charter. Read the whole Charter, and you will see exactly what I'm talking about. And especially Section 7 where it says that. Right? You have no rights. None. I didn't. When I made requests in the Prince George Regional Correctional Center. Now, these are all requests. All of these here, they're all requests from me. This one here, I request an investigation into an incident on January 24th, 2013, when my wife, Carrie Roop, was tortured by 5 men in the women's side of this prison. This is a normal behavior for all involved to cover up the murder of our firstborn child by 2 child molesters that work for the MCFD. That's what I wrote to the fucking prison. Justice has to be served at some point, and an investigation has to start somewhere. That's what I wrote. This is their response. For request, complaint is noted. However, these types of incidents do not occur. Due to privacy rules, I cannot comment on any issues involving this inmate. If you wish, if your wife has an allegation or concern, then she will need to report it herself on file and complaint to the RCMP. Well, she did that on her fucking video, didn't she? Wrote it down. They ignored me. I needed to get teeth pulled. They ignored me. I needed medical treatment on my shoulder after an accident, returning from Valemont to Prince George from my so-called fucking trial with Judge Gray. They refused me. They've refused me of everything. They refused me now to make an order. I can't make an application at the courthouse. The registry won't take an application from me. For the greater good, no doubt. Right? They won't give me my tapes from my proceedings. You know why? And these proceedings are a matter of public record. A matter of public record. That means that you can go in there, and remember now, there's no order. No order from my criminal trial as to a gag order or anything of that nature. Nothing. So you should be able to go in and get copies of my proceedings by just asking. Here's the number. 5845 3439-1. That's the court file. They will not even let you see my fucking file without taking documents out. They won't give me my tapes so that I can prove that they're criminals for the greater good. These are subpoenas that they wouldn't let me. Yeah, to all the people involved at my so-called trial. Yeah. Remember pedophile Barry? Eh? Remember I showed you this picture? This is up on Rubicon. Crossroads.wordpress.com. There he is, huh? The pedophile. They promoted him to sergeant now in Princeton. He lives in your community in Princeton. You imagine? A fucking pedophile. And they promoted him for it. There's my beautiful little boy, Tony. Sitting there, that's his boo-boo, he calls it. That's his boo-boo. And there's my beautiful little girl, Cherise May. Yeah. Who loves me as big as the sky. Yeah. But they won't give him back. No. Don't want him happy, right? Don't want him to be well-adjusted children. Yeah. They want to keep them in the system till they die. Which brings me to something else. Haven't seen or heard, and nobody else has that knows her. Carrie Rupp. Nobody has seen her or knows where she is. I believe they murdered her like they do with tens of thousands of others in this country. I could be wrong. They might have just locked her up for the rest of her fucking life, like she said in her video, like they threatened to do. Right? They won't tell me where she is. No. She's only my wife, right? I don't have a right to know where she is. No. Even though there's no conditions now, eh? None. But I got a little something for all of you now. Especially you fucking criminal pedophiles. The album of shame. See, I tell them what I'm doing, just so they can react to it and do something stupid and illegal like they always do, right? For the greater good. I'm going to make an album online with over 100,000 websites all over this world. And they're going to see your face, your name, what you did. Each and every fucking one of you. Every one of you that were involved in my case. I'm putting up your pictures. And when people see you on the street, they'll know whose face to spit in, won't they? Eh? With any kind of luck, they'll burn your fucking house down with you in it. Any kind of luck at all. Eh? But now I have another new twist. I'm gonna put every one of you fuckers, of all the ones that come to me, all my children that come to me and tell me your stories. Tell me who they are. Bring me a picture. If you can't, it don't matter. Because they've usually smiled for the camera in a newspaper or some article. Eh? I'll get it for you. No problem. And we'll put their faces in the album of shame and show the world what real evil looks like, right? Now, all my children that have been abused by these people, I don't care what they did to you. I don't care what they did to you, if it was illegal or immoral. Come to Quesnel. Sit on my right-hand side and tell your story to the world. The world is waiting for you. And let's take that shame that you've carried and the fucking despair that you felt all your life over what they did to you and put it where it belongs, on the album of shame. Eh? Let's do that. And let's see Let's see. And I don't care if they've been tried and convicted of what they did to you. No. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, you see. Because this is now going to be the greater good in my fucking domain. Mine, because I am sovereign of my domain now. Remember? Yeah. Come to Cornell. Come and see me. I'll help you. Come here and tell your story. I will show the world who it was that hurt you, who it was that defiled you, who it was that murdered your family's members. Whatever. I don't care what the story is, remember? Tell me their names, and I'll show their fucking faces to the world. Come to Cornell, my children. Come and see me. Yeah. Come and see me. And by the way, everyone out there, everyone, remember, say my name. Say my name. Put the fear of God in those sons of bitches. All of them. Say my name and scare the shit out of them. Because that will scare the shit out of them. So remember, come to Cornell. Come and see me and sit with me in front of this camera right here and tell your story to the world. And I'll show the pictures. We'll work together, won't we? For the greater good.